you just have to implant in your mind that you're not going to quit. And so when things get really hard and like you're thinking about just how awful everything is, like there's just something that won't let you. Like you just tell yourself every run you do, like, we're going to finish this, during training. And then just make sure to like bury that thought deep so that like when you're out of your mind on like day 4 of a race, and someone's like, I think you should stop, that you have to have the mindset that you're going to finish. Hi, I'm Mika. Looking for the mysteries in the forest, and I am a renegade.
Harvey, welcome to the podcast. Whether you're out running the Tahoe 200, the Bigfoot 200, the Cocodona with your crew, there's a bureau for you.
Whoa, bureau.
Tonight I got myself a nice bureau, non-alcoholic beer. It's a West Coast IPA. I'm going to try this one out. So
a PC blonde in the fridge, and I thought I'd give it a whirl.
President's Choice makes a beer. Lord,
it's good. It is
might die
good.
Drinking that.
Only thing I'm going to tell you is,
nice. I did not bring a beer, but I just have some water.
Well, there we go.
It's good.
That works too.
It's good.
It's pretty hot where I live right now, so just trying to rehydrate after my run.
Mika Thewes, welcome to the Renegade podcast. You finished, I believe, if UltraRun sign up is correct, 16 races over 200 miles. You've won the Bigfoot 200 twice. You shattered the course record on your 5th run. You stood tall on the podium as the female champ of the Tahoe 200, finishing 3rd overall. And you podiumed multiple times at Cocodona. And also you survived one of the nastiest 330-kilometer races on the planet, the Tour de Geants. What's the exact moment in one of these races where every cell, every part of your being wants to quit? The hallucinations are kicking in. Maybe you're out of fuel. Maybe you're just tired. How do you flip the switch and keep on going?
Well, I'd say when you're pretty focused and kind of just totally dialed into a race, I guess the thought crosses your mind sometimes, but I've never had any like really strong desires to quit. The worst one was definitely at Tour de Geants. And actually, I had some moments at Bivy 200, which is the Canadian 200-mile race over in outside of Calgary. That one was a little bit rough, but as well. But as long as you just keep, you just have to implant in your mind that you're not going to quit. And so when things get really hard and like you're thinking about just how awful everything is, like there's just something that won't let you. Like you just tell yourself every run you do, like, we're going to finish this, during training. And then just make sure to like bury that thought deep so that like when you're out of your mind on like day 4 of a race, and someone's like, I think you should stop, that it just like, I had a medic tell me to stop at Tour because I had hit, I don't know, 60 or 70 hours on no sleep. And I was just had really bad like deja vu. And he told me to quit. And the words that came out of my mind is like, I'm not going to quit. And then I was like, oh, I guess I got to keep going. So then I just left and kept going. So yeah, you just really have to have the mindset that you're going to finish.
So at that point, you just said that medic gave you advice to quit. What are the exact words you said to that medic? Because I know like you would have had some fire burn.
I was totally out of my mind. And he said, I advise you to stop. And I said, I will not drop. And then I and I didn't know I was going to say that. Like I couldn't really form thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just had to pack up all my stuff and start heading out.
I was going to say, walk us through the Tour de Geants. I'm pretty sure my French should be much better since I'm French heritage, but is that like Tour de Geants or the...
Yeah, so it's an Italian race. It's on the Italian side of Mont Blanc. So it starts in Courmayeur, which is right across the tunnel from Chamonix, which most people will know.
Yes.
But you end up doing a giant circle around the Aosta Valley. And so it's about 85,000 feet of climbing to like 90. It's just, and the climbs in the Alps, like, I live in Colorado, so I run a lot of mountains, but the climbs out there are just fundamentally different. I mean, you're going up 8,000 feet and then you're descending for over 8,000 feet. So it's just like there's no break. You're descending for like hours on end. And so it's a really crazy race. And it's really hard for Americans, I think, to train for it, and Canadians, North Americans to train for it in general, just because like the Alps are a totally different experience.
And the scenery and the route must be beautiful. Can you like describe the surroundings, the beauty, maybe the nastiness of it?
Yeah, so it's gorgeous. You end up hitting a bunch of like small towns, and they're pretty established trails, and there's signs everywhere. And it's really well marked. But yeah, the views you get, like you get a great view of Matterhorn from the course, which I was super excited about. And like, yeah, it's even in the low points, if you kind of pause for a moment and look around, you can recognize the beauty, and it'll kind of helps boost you a little bit, even when you're just like, I can't believe I'm still running. Like, this sucks. Why am I doing another giant climb? But then you like are like, but it is really nice. Like, man, I get to be out here. This is amazing. So, and the small towns are pretty great. And you end up stopping at a bunch of little refugios, which is like a big thing in Europe. And so you're hitting these like small mountain, they're almost like inns at some point. Some of them are just like bio shelters where they're just like plexiglass little shelter and like two guys with some tea. But a lot of them like have beds and stuff, and you can stop and sleep, and they're just so cool.
The Runegade is proud to be sponsored by Thrive Protein. Power your runs and fuel your endurance with Thrive Protein, the premier Canadian-made supplement brand crafted for endurance athletes. This family-owned brand uses a science-based approach to develop high-quality electrolytes, a carbon electrolyte powder, creatine, vegan protein powders, whey protein, and super greens, and they are constantly innovating. Recently brought to market EnduraFuel, hydration and fuel all in one. Each serving offers 30 grams of carbs and a 2-to-1 ratio of glucose to fructose. You also get 400 milligrams of sodium, 150 milligrams of potassium, 25 milligrams of calcium, and magnesium, replenishing all the elements that you're sweating out during your efforts. It gives your body the energy it needs to perform at its peak. Plus, the lemonade flavor tastes amazing. Thrive is perfect for any athlete chasing any distance. Visit thriveprotein.ca and use the code RUNEGADE for 20% off your order. Thrive Protein. Fuel your relentless pursuit of adventure. That's something that's always fascinated me about the 100-mile races and above. I love to sleep, so I've always been afraid of the 100-milers just because I like to sleep too much. And then when you start to think about the 200-milers and then the 330 kilometers and all this stuff, like, do you plan to sleep? Like, help the new listeners, like the makeup of the Renegades, a lot of new runners, a lot of mid-pack runners. Most people probably never even heard of a 200-miler. But like, help us understand the sleep aspect of being out there for days. Like, are you taking a nap on the dirt? Are there beds for you? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so sleep's probably one of the biggest questions people always have when it comes to 200s. So a lot of times, so like most aid stations, it's different for every race, but a lot of times they have like a sleep area with either cots and blankets or actual beds sometimes, or just like a big sleep tent with like blankets on the ground almost. And so it really depends on like the time frame you're running, because I finished races in under 60 hours, and I finished races in over 100 hours. So like really it's like every different finishing time. Like, you don't want to go for over 60 hours without having slept. If you're running like 60 or under, I've done races where I haven't slept at all, or take like a 10-minute dirt nap. But like once you're hitting like 80, 90, 100 hours, like you need hours of sleep at that point. So, I mean, it really depends. So anything from like sleeping for a half hour at a time, whether it's in the dirt or at an aid station, or even up to like a 2-hour nap. Sometimes if you have like a crew with like a vehicle, you could get like a really good like 2-hour sleep in, which could be helpful. But I've seen people sleep for like 8 hours before, like when you're like really ahead and you just need it. But like there's it's best to keep it shorter because like you'd be amazing at how refreshed you could feel after just like an hour or two of sleep.
Okay.
So you're saying dirt nap for the listeners. Just give us a crash course on the dirt nap.
Depending on the weather, you could I usually put on my like all my clothes, so I'll have a puffy jacket on. But if it's really cold, you could pull out your bivy because you should always have your emergency space blanket bivy.
Okay.
It's very good to carry that for 200s because
Right.
people like not carry it for the weight, but then when you need it, like you never think you're going to need it. You never know when you're
For
going to need it.
sure.
But I mean, depending on the race, like at Tahoe, I slept for 10 minutes in a porta potty in Incline Village because it was really clean in the rich area of town because it was like a shield from the wind. And I slept those 10 minutes were fantastic.
Perfect. Well, I'm not going to
The old
compare
10 minutes in the
myself.
porta potty.
I'm not going to compare myself to you at all. The furthest I've ever done was 100 miles. And my favorite place to sleep was the McDonald's drive-thru.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard people at some of like their road ultras, like if you sleep at like the post office in the like front room, that's like always unlocked. So you could sleep at like the front of a post office in the middle of the night.
For sure.
But yeah, you can get creative for sure.
Well, Mika, we can all understand catching the running bug. We all understand running our first 5K, 10 kilometers, half marathon, marathons. Why did you take to running and why 200 milers?
Well, I was not athletic at all growing up, but my mom has always been a runner. And so I actually went to school on the East Coast and I got out there and I was overweight. And I just started running to try and lose weight after my first year of college. And my mom and my stepdad would both run with me that summer. And it kind of like got me started. And the first race I did after that, after I started running, was a half marathon. And then the second race I did was a marathon 11 months after I'd started running. And then, so that would have been in 2011. And then in 2012, I did my first 50 miler. And that was my first trail race. I'd been on trail for maybe 8 miles before I tried that. And it was a steep learning curve that first couple miles of that race. But it was a race in Michigan called North Country Run and on the North Country Trail. And then by 2013, I did my first 100. In 2015, I did my first 200. So I just like kept doubling it every year or so. And it worked out actually. And in between my first 100 miler and 200, I did a 48-hour in Canada called Dirty Girls, which used to exist like north of Toronto. It was like the smallest little race, but it was so cool. So that's the first time I went over 100 miles. And it just, you know, I don't know what it is. There's just something, and maybe it's just like something about personality, but when you just like start to get really into something and you just want to keep seeing how far you can go.
Well, I was going to say, like, when you think of the 200-mile races, Mika, when you were younger, were you the one that spent lots of time playing by yourself, concentrating on things, reading books, like in-depth focus? Because when you're out running for 200 miles, you're going to have to spend a lot of time with alone with yourself. Is that something that when you were younger?
So I went to art school, so I'm trained in fine arts. And so it's actually running is very similar to like being in the studio as an artist. Because like I would go into the studio and pull like a 36-hour shift where I was just doing the same motion, like because I'm ceramicist.
Okay.
So doing the same motion with clay for like 30 hours, you know, or you're just like painting little details for like 2 days. And so there's definitely a connection between those two things.
That's
where you just kind of
fascinating.
can like lose track of time and just really focus in on like the specific activity you're doing and like the motion even. It's almost meditative, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So how did you basically, you brought us down the road a little bit, how you started with the shorter distances and worked your way up to the 200 mile. What was it that hit you that said 200 miles, that's my thing?
Well, once you do one, there's definitely a divide between the people that do a 200 and it's like I wanted to do this once and I'm like I'm good. Like
Mhm.
I just wanted to do this race. And then the people that do one and are like, oh, this is great. I want to just keep doing this over and over. And I know a lot of people that have caught the bug after the first one they do, and they're just like, oh, I just want to keep doing this again and again. And so I fall into that camp for sure.
Okay. Okay. So would you say that 200 miles you find easier than running a shorter distance?
It's very different. I did my first marathon in a decade not that long ago. So I hadn't run a marathon since like 2013, and then I did Boston in 2024 and a qualifier in 2022. So it was almost a decade, and it's a very different kind of running. Since you're focused on speed and not really like you don't really have to think about anything. You just run as fast as you can versus the 200 you're always like managing like 5 different things and just trying to keep everything under control, and you're constantly like planning and thinking ahead and problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not going to say 200 is easy, but there's something very engaging about it.
I think she said that. She did.
So yeah, it's much more engaging and less just
Okay.
like brute force speed. I mean, even hundreds, I haven't run 100 since like 2021 maybe. And what I remember from that race is just, I was like, oh, I can just run as fast as I can for 20 hours because I don't have to worry about day 2 and day 3 or even
Okay.
day 4.
Sure.
So you just go.
Well, like maybe for us, and I've been watching lots of YouTubes on the Tahoe 200, the Bigfoot 200, the Mammoth, Cocodona, like these beautiful races. They're unbelievable. And I envision myself, I'm like, I would just love to be out there. I don't know if I could be out there for 5 days. I'd probably take right to the line. But how do you chunk up a 200 miler? Like when you look at it, a 200 miler, do you plan that I think this section will be an easier section, this section will be harder? Like, how do you game plan for the race?
I think the easiest way to do it is to just take it aid station by aid station. So to break it up in that, because you have like a stopping point basically and like a refuel point. And so rather than trying to think of like, oh, a 50-mile chunk or even like a full day, like to just break it up from one point to the next, I think makes it a lot more manageable. And a lot of the races have such generous cutoffs that I've known people that don't even run during a 200. Like you can power hike the whole thing if you're a fast hiker. And so like it does seem like an intimidating distance to a lot of people, but I think you'd be surprised at how attainable it is to like hit the times if you're a decent hiker and have like a good plan and you're not just like wasting a lot of time, I guess. But I think I think the cutoffs are way more, like it's way easier to finish a 200, especially if you're middle or like even back of the pack than it is to finish 100. Because some of the cutoffs at 100 milers are so strict and like so tight. They're just really fast.
Take us back to your first 200 miler. So you walked us through your evolution. All of us runners have been in this evolution up to probably about the marathon, where you double your distance. I did a 5K, I did a 10K, I'm going to do a half marathon. What was most surprising when you went from the 100 to the 200? Like when you look back, how great did you feel afterwards, or how destroyed did you feel afterwards of doing this 200 miler compared to the 100 miler?
I would say mentally it was a lot harder on the 200 because I mean, I did Bigfoot in 2015, which was the very first year of the race. And it would have been like only the second 200 miler that had happened in the US that was like a non looped course because Tahoe would have happened the year before for the first year. So, like, none of us knew what we were doing. So, like, there were all kinds of stuff that happened at that first race. Like, a bunch of people got food poisoning, including me.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, just like, because it was brand new. Like, none of us knew, like, the volunteers didn't know how to manage it, the runners didn't know. And so there was a lot that went wrong, but you just keep pushing on. But I would say at the finish line, I'd never felt so just like spent. Like I had zero emotion. Like I didn't care about anything. I was like, yeah, I just want to shower. And I just like wandered away. Like I didn't care that I had finished because like mentally I was just so exhausted. Because I think it took us I ran most of the race with my friend Joel, who I met on the like 2 days before the race started. We ended up doing like 160 miles together. So like we crossed the finish line and he's like, oh, we gotta like, run it in and like hold hands, hold up. And I was like, I don't want to. And he like dragged me over there. And yeah, I was just completely not a care. I did not care that I had just finished. And then like a day later, like once you sleep and rest, you're like, that was amazing. And I was so low on calories the entire race. I was hangry like at least 50% of the time. I was miserable. I was probably miserable to be around too. Actually, I know I was. And it was still like the best, like looking back, I was like, that was the best experience of my life. So like, even though it felt awful, like I would say 80% of the race, like definitely that like type 2 fun where when you look back on it, you're like, oh no, that was like incredible.
Oh, it's wonderful.
That's cool.
You touched on it, saying that you were hungry throughout the race, maybe underfueled. How do you actually feel? And I think you're a plant-based runner, right? So how do you feel during a 200 miler? Like, are you shooting for so many calories per hour? Are you just bringing your favorite treats with you? Like, how do you plan for that?
Yeah, I think nutrition in general for ultra running has been changing so much recently that, it used to be, you're right, keto was big for a hot second and now it's like high carb and there's a lot of like drink mixes. So I actually have started using the drink mixes in the last 2 years, which I never had done previously. So that's like a really good tool, I think, depending on what works best for you based on like the flavor. It's just different brands, but I'm not like a spreadsheet kind of person. So I've never made a spreadsheet in my life. People have like such lists and I just like figure I should be eating something at least every hour. And I just bring a bunch of snacks and just make sure every hour or so I'm like eating one of my snacks and drinking and try to drink all of my drink mix between aid stations. So I know I'm getting all those calories as well.
Right. So no science.
No science for me. I've never had like a sweat test done. I'm like, I got into like the long distance races so early of the 200s that I still am kind of in the mindset, I think, of like the early 200-mile runners. And now like everyone coming in is coming from like this super sciencey 100-mile background. And I'm just like, I just eat a lot of gluten based things and, try to just eat as constantly as I can. And that's pretty much it.
Well, maybe that's one of your keys to success would be that you've seen those runners, Mika, you've seen these runners at the races where they got their sheets and they're obsessing about everything. And maybe they're forgetting about the entire reason they're there and the enjoyment of the run, where it sounds like you can be more present, more in the moment, but deep down inside, you know your body and you know what you need to eat and you prepare accordingly, but you're not going to overly stress about this. Is that a good way to explain it maybe too?
Yeah, I'd say that. And also, I think to be successful at the 200s, like finishing multiple of them, you have to be really good at problem solving and adapting on the spot. So, if you're too married to a certain plan, to a certain type of food, and you can't move past that when it's not working and just shift gears completely, like you have to be able to really just switch gears based on what's going on in the race. So it's great to have a plan, but you just have to know the plan's going to change. And if you can do that, I think those are the people that tend to be successful at the distance.
People like you, top of the 200-mile game for sure. Now, did you have to train your gut, or have you always had a pretty good gut? Because sometimes I watch these videos on YouTube and these poor ultra runners, they're out hammering and then next thing you know, they're puking and then they rally. But like, are you that type of runner? Are you one with a weak stomach, tough stomach?
I've always taken the mindset that every run is a good run. Okay. So I've eaten lots of food before a run. I've eaten massive amounts of food during a run. I've had stomach issues on trail. And that trains you how to deal with that feeling during a race. So I guess I have been training my stomach, and I do eat kind of random times. Like I'll eat right before a run and then just go out and try and hammer. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's like good mental training for how to deal with stomach issues during a race.
Yeah, so obviously you're going to have a lot of good things and a lot of bad things when you're running as much as you are. Can you share your lowest low with us and your highest high?
Yeah, I had some great moments at Bigfoot the year I set the course record. The last section, I ran it in with my mom, who was coming off of some road running training, and that last 13 miles is a road section. And, I hadn't looked. I don't like looking at my watch during a race, so I never know what pace I'm actually on until I finish.
Mhm.
And I finally looked at my watch when we were like a couple miles from the finish, and I realized what pace we were on, and I was very shocked. And yeah, running in with her was a really amazing moment. And I've had many like great, I'd say the best moments I've had on trail are with other people. So when I like make new friends on trail, I've made a lot of lifelong friends during races, and you just get to chatting and really get to know each other. And it's pretty amazing experience. And like these long days, you could be running with someone, the same person for 2 or 3 days. So like you start to get to know each other really well. And yeah, lowest lows. I mean, probably like injuries during runs, or I've hit like mental lows, but I wouldn't say that time at Tour I was out of my mind, but that wasn't really an emotional low. That was just like a mental issue. But yeah, whenever you drop a race, it's always hard. So yeah, probably the DNFs. I've had a couple. So, and they happen to everyone, and you just gotta roll with it, DNF, and move on to the next race and not stress about it too much.
Yeah, that's good advice. Like you chalk it up and head back out to your next run. Now, when you finish the 200 miler and you got to recover, do you notice that it's more hard physically to recover or more hard mentally to recover from the 200 miler?
I think the physical recovery is a lot easier than like even 100 miler. Definitely than
Okay.
like a marathon. Like a road marathon is so hard on your body, but at 200, you're moving so much slower and you have the variation of the environment. So your legs are not nearly as messed up. The biggest thing is if you have feet issues, that would be probably the hardest physical thing, because blisters and stuff take a while to heal.
Hmm.
But I think it's the lack of sleep and trying to get back on a normal sleep schedule. You're just kind of like for a week or two after the race, you're just constantly exhausted and like falling asleep at weird times. Like, especially the first like 2, 3 days after the race, you'll be like awake for like 1 or 2 hours, and then you'll like feel like you need a nap for like 20 minutes. So that's definitely like the hardest part of recovery from it. And like if you have to go back to like a normal job and like your family, like I've had friends that have had to do that, and it's just so hard to like try and handle everything while you're still just so tired. It's just that physical fatigue is definitely, I think, the hardest part of it.
For sure. You mentioned your feet, so it's a question that either Todd or I are going to ask you. What's your choice? What do you have on your feet?
Yeah, so there's like several layers for especially the 200-mile distance in terms of like I am a very strict pre-taper. I always pre-tape my feet, and everyone used to do that in 200s, and now they don't as much, but it's become like almost a ritual for me. So I
Okay.
pre-tape, put stuff on my feet, like squirrel's nut butter or whatever. I wear Gingy socks, the toe
Gingies,
socks.
yeah.
I
They
was going
still
to
work.
ask you that. Toe socks. Yes, I love the toe socks. Yes.
Yeah, those still work for me. And then for shoes, I'm kind of torn. Like I wear a couple different ones. I do most of my training in La Sportiva shoes, but for races, I've raced in La Sportiva, but I also wear the Ultra Olympus a lot. So for the longer races, just because of the cushion. So that's a good one.
Well, we never raced in Las Sportivas, but we heard about them. I've seen them in the store, and I always noticed that they were always like maybe the model I was like a very stiff kind of shoe. Like it wasn't that flexible. And we love ultras. We're ultra folks, and we wear our ultras. I've always had trouble with the Olympus though, because I find they were too much cushion and I'm too far off the ground, and I'm already pretty much of a Bigfoot out there. So it just makes me more prone to fall than I naturally already am. But yeah, I was going to say, like, I saw one of your photos on Instagram and I noticed that you were wearing some ultra running shoes.
Yeah, I used to wear more of them. The early Timp models I liked a lot. I haven't been able to wear the Timps as much recently, but yeah, just the beating your feet take during the long races. I like that extra cushion, but I do most of my training in like more minimal shoes. Like I like the Sportiva Bushidos, and their more cushion version is that I've raced in is the Akashas, which are still like, those ones aren't too stiff and they're pretty cushy, but not nearly as like marshmallowy as the Olympuses are.
They do feel like giant marshmallows. We did tell our ultra friends that.
Yeah, there was a couple models that I didn't like as much, but they've widened the base of the shoe so they're a little less tippy. Like the Olympus, like it was either the 2s or the 3s were like really rolly, and like I twisted my ankle and it was bad. But the newer models are a lot flared out at the base, and so they're a lot better for the stability.
Mika, when you go back and you were prepping for your first 200 miler, what scared you the most about that 200-mile distance? And has that fear remained the same every time you've run, or has it changed over time?
I mean, I don't think there was much I was really scared of going in just because it was so new. Like there was no information about the 200-mile races. Like I didn't have like people's race reports to look up. And so I was just going in totally blind. So I mean, I was preparing, I think I don't even remember what shoes I wore at that race, but I put in the training and I just figured I'd make it work, but there just like wasn't enough. Like there's so much more information now that you can look up and look at the things that go wrong. But I had no idea what could possibly go wrong during a 200-mile race back then. So there wasn't really a lot of fear. It was just like, you just got to go in with an open mindset and be like, well, we'll see how this goes and I'll just finish no matter what. I mean, I was actually injured going into that race. I had stress reactions in my femurs. So I was like, well, just be careful on the downhills. Don't like run too hard on pavement and hike it in if I have to.
Runners, your gear is holding you back. If you're struggling with chafing, useless pockets, and materials that feel too technical and just don't keep up with your training, let me introduce you to Path Projects, offering a complete line of gear and apparel built by runners, for runners, and today's modern endurance athletes that want to perform, train hard, and look damn good doing it. Say goodbye to chafing with Path's independent suspension design. They've separated the baseliner from the short, virtually eliminating all the rubbing and movement that traditional running shorts have. A simple design feature that makes all the difference. Less movement plus performance fabrics equals no burn, no chafing, no hot shower screams. My all-time Path favorite, their best-selling Graves PX running short built with Toray Prime Flex has a great feel while being extremely durable and has an unbelievable amount of storage. I've been able to carry gels, my iPhone, my car keys, and even hang a clip-on water bottle off the waist. And they're built to last. Path's Tahoe CL baseliners offer an all-season performance. The cool light mesh is for the extremists. A bird's eye mesh fabric that is ultra light, super wicking, and insanely breathable. Comfort means everything. And they offer personalized performance. With Path baseliners, you have the choice of 2 fabrics and 4 lengths, 3, 5, 8-inch, and full length, which allows you to dial in a baseliner based on the current weather condition and your personal preference. And with the Path's Graves PX shorts, you have the choice of 2 fits, classic and relax, and 2 lengths, which give you the flexibility to match your short to the effort. With the right gear from Path, you can focus on your effort and getting after it. Check them out, pathprojects.com, and you can use the code TRP10 for 10% off your order for a limited time.
It's for sure.
It kind of speaks to the old school ultra running mentality. A friend of the podcast, Carl Meltzer, like we love Speed Goat, right? And we love talking to him about like the golden age of ultra running in the late 90s, 2000s, where there was internet, but there was no like race reports. You just basically showed up, had fun, and you learned with each race. That's where I'm kind of the element I'm getting out of the 200 mile, because it was the dawn of the 200 milers, and you started at the onset of it and grown throughout the sport, and you've gotten faster each year at these 200-mile races. So how has your training evolved, Mika? That first 200 miles, you mentioned that you were trained for it. What does that mean? And then what does preparing for it now mean, like in mileage and types of runs and confidence boosters that you like to do before you toe the line of these big races?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot over the years. I mean, I'd say for probably the first decade I was running, I mean, I was just self coached. So it was just a lot of long, slow runs. So without realizing it, I was just building a giant aerobic, a base. And so I spent 10 years probably running without looking at pace or heart rate or anything, just guessing based on distance really, and building up to that where I had like that really strong base. And then it wasn't until 22, I think, that I ended up starting to work with a coach. So I started running in 2010 and I was self-coached until then, and doing ultra since 2012. So yeah, I had that full decade where I was just, conversational pace running. And yeah, like I got faster over time for sure, that I noticed, but it wasn't anything. I was never much of a metrics person. But once I started working with a coach, we started doing more like heart rate based training. And now I do training based on time and heart rate. And it's a lot more dialed in. And I don't have to worry about the specifics too much. Cause like, I think it's good to not work with a coach for a while, but there's definitely benefits to working with a coach as well. So like to get that feel without obsessing about your watch of like what paces feel like and what like an easy pace is versus like a hard pace, and not being obsessed with the metrics while you're trying to build up. And like heart rate training, I think is really only useful once you have like a really big base. I think some people maybe jump into it thinking it'll be super great too early. But yeah, now it's a lot more specific.
Do you have to nowadays? Do you do speed training, intervals, track workouts? Are you dabbling in that a little bit, or not really for a 200 miler?
I've never been a track workout kind of person, but I do a lot of treadmill running.
Okay.
Speed is important for a 200. I mean, if you're just trying to finish, I don't think you need to do the speed work. It's definitely helpful to do some like hill training if the race you're doing has a lot of climbing, obviously. But once you're trying to run faster at the grids, like speed is always going to be important no matter what distance you're doing. So yeah, I mostly do treadmill speed work.
Well, that's why you'd like 200 milers, to get away from the treadmill and get out into nature, because running on a treadmill is tough. That's tough. That's tough sledding here. Harvey likes to run on a treadmill. Every time I run on a treadmill, I always get hurt for some reason. I don't know why. Like I get hurt. I think it's just a mind thing. I don't know.
I'm there.
Now, here's the question I got. So you double the distance from 200. I'm sure you've been asked this. Is there a 400-mile race or like a 500-mile race that you got your eyes on?
Not any that I know of. There's some other like longer races that have been popping up that I'm definitely interested in trying that I haven't done yet. But probably the biggest one is Tour de Geants is the 330-kilometer race. And then there's a 450-kilometer race that has even way more climbing and like glacier travel almost.
What?
I would like to eventually do that race. It's called Tour de Glaciers.
Tour de Glaciers. Okay.
Yeah. Or glacier. I don't know my Italian, but that's a crazy race. And eventually I would like to try that one. But like, I don't want to race it. I just want to like get a couple other people that have finished tour, because you have to hit you have to qualify by running under 130 hours.
Okay.
I want to get a little American contingent to just like go do it together and wander around the mountains for like 5 or 6 days. And like you stop at all like the high altitude like refugios and you like shower and eat and like hang out. The glacier runners looked like they were having the most fun.
You say that you don't want to race it. You're probably going to go out there and break the course record or something.
No, I don't have a lot of experience with like high mountaineering type stuff. And I think there's a little bit of that mixed in.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to rush it. I'm just have like no experience.
Maybe
in
not
that,
your
so.
first time. Maybe second or third time.
Yeah. I'll work up to being
Yeah.
competitive with that one.
Well, I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm just going to guess. I'm going to guess that the Bigfoot 200 is your favorite 200 miler. What's the one you hate the most?
So Bigfoot and Tahoe, I both really love.
Okay.
I have a hard time picking between them because Bigfoot was like my first one, so it's very special. But Tahoe is just such like that area of the country is just so amazing. Like the Tahoe Rim Trail is just so smooth and runnable, and like I dream about that trail. But my least favorite race ever, everyone who knows me knows this, is Moab 240. I will never run that race again. I finished it once. I have my belt buckle. I'm good. I never have to run it again. I'm just not a desert kind of a runner, and that race is just so like pure desert that I struggle. I didn't like it when I did it.
What part about the desert don't you like? The sand, the smooth rocks? Like what about what?
Yeah, slick rock, sand. I mean, it's all exposed heat. Like there's no pretty trees. Like you have to like really appreciate desert scenery to like that race, and I just don't appreciate it that much. And the one year I did it, the first year I finished it, and I turned to my friend at mile 11 who I was running with, and I was like, "Oh, I'm never running this race again. Like I'm finishing this race this year because I am never running this race again."
At mile 11, you just got a long ways to go.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I managed to push through, so I never have to go back.
For sure. Is there anything outside of running that helps you through your training and through your running, like in your social life that you do? Or are you just a runner?
No, definitely. Like, I mean, as someone who spends most of their time running, you end up going to group runs and stuff. And so that becomes a lot of your social life.
For sure.
Actually, the group run I usually go to is happening right now. And then, I mean, there is some nice like cross training stuff, right? So like enjoying nature in different ways. I like biking. I do some like road biking and gravel biking with friends too. And that's like a nice change up for things. And yeah, it's, when you have a certain level of fitness, it's kind of nice because if someone's like, hey, you want to go do this activity? Or like, well, I've only been kayaking like once, but I'm sure I can manage a kayak trip,
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice to have that baseline fitness so you can like jump into like I've only been indoor rock climbing a couple times, but if a friend's like, hey, you want to go indoor rock climbing? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Wow.
And like, you're not struggling. I mean, obviously you're sore in different areas, but you can kind of keep up, which is nice.
For sure.
What, it's 2026. What races are you looking forward to this year, Mika?
I already have a full schedule. Way too many already. I'm doing Cocodona in a month. And then I have Tahoe in June. And then Tour de Geants again in September. So I'm actually going to be heading out to Italy in July to train there for a couple months. And then actually at the end of the year, I'm going to do my first 105 years. I'm signed up for No Business 100 down in Tennessee.
Okay.
So
that's a full calendar. Absolutely. I'm kind of afraid to ask, what does your peak training week look like from a volume as you build towards these big races?
Probably put in kind of averaging about 20 hours a week, I'd say. In the past, I've hit up to like 120 miles, but I haven't really hit that in a couple of years. Usually about 100-mile weeks maybe, but yeah, about 20 hours, maybe a little more, a little less of training.
And I'm assuming lots of climbing. Are you doing like stairs? Are you doing hills? Like how do you build that, like the climbing strength?
Yeah, out in Colorado, it's not hard.
True.
There's a lot of mountains and hills, so it's kind of built into most of my runs just organically. And then I do some like specific hill workouts to build that climbing strength. But yeah, I could always use more power hiking practice. I probably don't do enough of that. At some point, when you need to do that during a race, you can just pull it out. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things I could do better for that, but when you're power hiking, so.
So do you have a formula, like how much you run, how much you walk, how much you power hike? Or is it just like, oh man, I feel like crap right now, I'm going to slow down?
No formulas for me in any way. Just I run based on feel. That's why I
Okay.
don't like even looking at my watch, because I don't like getting caught up in like, oh, I'm behind. Oh, I'm going too fast. Like the only thing I really look at is my heart rate, because if I
Mhm.
feel like really bad, I'm like, oh, my heart rate's maybe a little high. But the only screen on my watch that I look at the whole entire race is my heart rate.
Okay.
Okay.
And I just tell time based on where the sun is. And I just guess on what time it is. And I tell my crew to never tell me the time or like where I am in the race. Like, I don't want to know.
Right.
And then you just run based on feel. That's pretty much all I do.
Cool. That is a wonderful feeling, just to like to
Yeah.
be free. You're running free. You're not tied to any metric. I think we have to get you like an old school Timex watch, or like one that you can wear around your, has no pace, no nothing on it. But then you wouldn't have your heart rate. So we'd have to like maybe get one that has a heart rate built into it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just need like a heart rate watch where it like won't even tell you the time of day.
Yeah, it just tells you your heart
Yeah.
rate. Is what heart rate do you start to worry about? Like if you get to like a certain beats per minute, what does that look like for a runner of your caliber?
I'd say if I'm like consistently like 170, I'm starting to be like a little bit like, wow, that's really weird. I shouldn't be that high.
Okay.
But it's like it's such like a personal metric that it's really hard to like generalize, because I've known people where 180 wasn't a big deal for them. And so it's so hard to like make generalizations based on heart rate, because it's so specific to your body and your training.
So you train for it, you practice, you know what this heart rate feels like. Oh,
Yeah.
feels like I can run forever at this heart rate and just stay below that. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and once you do it for like a year or two, you get a pretty good, if you're like really dialed into your body, you get a really good sense of what each heart rate feels like. So I really don't even need to look at my watch at this point, because I'm so used to what different paces feel like. And I am almost always guess where I'm at within like 5 whatever heart rate beats per minute. So it's really useful to use it as like a base to like get the feeling, so you know when it feels like you're overextending and you can pull it back, and to like use it as a tool for information, but not to be reliant on.
That's good advice on that for sure. Now, with all the gear that you got to bring for a 200 miler, what's the one non-negotiable, the one thing that you need to have for a 200 miler? Like maybe it's like the unconventional thing that people wouldn't know. Like you need shoes and you need socks and stuff like that. But maybe there's something that unconventional that we don't know about.
Well, this is just something specific to me. I really like listening to music when I run. So I listen to music like pretty much the entire race. And so I always have a music player.
Ah, that's good.
I
What's
have
the Mika
I have
playlist?
I have a bunch of old school iPods. I have the brick iPod still. I have some iPod minis and some iPod touches. Like I hoard iPods. So that's what I use during a race.
Nice. Can you still upload music to it through the computer, or is it just whatever music was saved on at that point in time?
No, I mean, my computer is 10 years old at this point.
Okay.
So it still hooks up to my iPod.
Okay.
It's not good for anything else, but it will still connect to those since it still has iTunes on it. I'm dating myself that much. Yeah, that's like my non-negotiable is like if I don't have that, I feel very like not like I don't know, it's like a bit of a crutch. Like I need to have that just in case. Even if I'm not listening to it, I need to have it with me and it needs to be charged in case things go sideways and I need to just like zone out and listen to music. But like I said, there's, every race has like safety equipment. And like I was saying, don't sacrifice, just in general advice for 200s is to not sacrifice because you're like, oh, I don't need to carry this. I won't use it, or it's too heavy. Like always carry your bivy, always carry extra headlamp, extra batteries. Don't try and like say, oh, I'm not going to need that. My headlamp will be great, because you never know what'll happen. And so once you start sacrificing like the safety stuff, it gets really kind of dicey.
Yeah, so go back to your iPad, or your iPods. You're running with your iPod, the battery runs dead. You throw that to the crew and say, "Give me another iPod."
Well, usually I have at least 2 on me,
Okay.
so I just swap
The
them
backup.
out.
You got to have the backup.
Gotta have the
Harv.
backup. So her going back to the question you asked her, Todd, it's not one, it's having at least 2.
2 iPods.
Yeah, at least 2 of them.
I mean, my collection's probably at least 8. So
Well, this would be right up Uncle Mark. He's not here for this episode, but when he hear that, I know his question that he would ask me, so I'm channeling it right now. What's your favorite go-to song, favorite artist? Do you have 1 or 2 that you like to listen to over and over again?
oh man. So this is maybe it's a little strange, but I listen to a lot of K-pop. I think it's like the perfect running music. It's not what I listen to in my like non-running life, but in terms of like running, it's like my favorite genre to listen to.
Excellent.
So I listen to a lot. Like my playlist is like 90% K-pop and 10%
Okay.
like other stuff.
That's
But like
awesome.
some of my older stuff, like I still listen to stuff I liked in high school, like Fall Out Boy, and I listened to Pierce the Veil, like that kind of stuff too. So that's mixed
Nice.
in.
Mhm.
Okay. For the listeners who are thinking about taking to the trails and getting to the ultra distance, coming from the person who grew fast in the sport, still a young age, and you got a lot of races under your belt, why would you tell them that they need to take to the trails? Is there something that you've discovered about yourself, about running, by increasing the distance and doing the ultra events on the trails that were different than the pounding the miles on the road?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about longevity for trail running. It's so much easier on your body and so much more engaging that at least for me, like after doing a couple marathons, I started losing interest in running. Like you could still go out and do your loop and run the roads, but every road almost starts to look the same, right? And so the trails are just visually and mentally so much more engaging, and you're like more focused on what you're doing and not just like, your mind's wandering to like the stuff you have to do at home. And then just on your body, I think it's so much easier to do like the trails, especially like in the Midwest. Like the trails out there are so soft that it's nice, and it's a lot easier on like people are always like, oh, running's bad for your knees, which obviously isn't true even if you're running on pavement. But if you do have aches and pains, the trail surface is a lot more forgiving. So I think it's a reason to shift, is to just both extend your enjoyment both mentally and physically of running in general.
Mika, you spent all these times on the trails in the Pacific Northwest, in Tahoe. Have you encountered Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or evidence of Bigfoot or Sasquatch? And do you believe in the mysterious?
I have not had the experience of meeting Bigfoot, unfortunately.
Okay.
And I've not hallucinated Bigfoot also,
Okay.
which would be fun. But he's out there somewhere. You just got to keep looking. I
Just gotta
mean,
keep looking.
to be a little more cheesy about it, like I do think that one of the things I like most about trail running and like running in different environments is that exploration. And like I do actually think about like finding Bigfoot when I'm out like in the Pacific Northwest, and like I
Yes.
want to like run in Asia and like find like the forest spirits and like find like the dragons. Like you got to just go and look. And so I love looking at the places on maps that have like weird names like Goblin Gates or something, and it's like, well, I want to go see if there's goblins.
Absolutely.
You got to just go look.
I love it. I love that you said that, because that's kind of like speaks to me too. We had a guest on about a year ago, Dr. Meldrum. He passed away, but he was like the world's largest Bigfoot researcher. But he wasn't a Bigfoot researcher. He was like a legit university professor, I think from University of Idaho, who collected footprints and basically tried to say that, well, all these footprints, they're not fake. They have to be from something really large. And so all the guests who spend lots of time in the trails would like to ask, have you ever encountered a Bigfoot? And you're the first one to say that you want to encounter a Bigfoot or seek out the mysterious. I love it, because I would love to find Bigfoot. Yeah,
You gotta go look.
For sure.
Gotta go look. Yeah, that's right.
So Mika, obviously you have friendship outside of running. Not all your friends are runners. Have you ever tried to convince any of your non-running friends that they want to do a 200 miler? And if you did, what did you say to them to try to convince them?
I have not tried to convince anyone to run a 200. I like to encourage people that are maybe earlier in their running life that it's not as unattainable as you would think in terms of the distance isn't intimidating. There's a lot of other factors in terms of like the amount of time people have or the cost of the races that I think are a lot more actual factors that keep people out. But I have tried to convince non-running friends to run, and it's worked to varying, not very successful.
No?
I mean, if you're not into it, you're not into it, unfortunately.
I'm with
Well,
you, Mika.
I should probably try and give you some of my tips because I've been pretty successful, right, Todd?
I think I'm the only one that Harvey convinced to start running. And he's still running. I'm terrible at it. I've been begging my wife and my 2 daughters to ever come run with me. Now they're older. But when they were younger, they would do it a little bit. So I just totally gave up. I'm like, maybe they'll run one day and maybe I'm still moving and I can run with them because that'd be wonderful, I think.
Well, I was that kid because my mom was a runner and I hated running. And it wasn't until I was 18 that I even thought of running, or 19. And I have 2 little sisters as well. And one of them I think is never going to be convinced, but the other one, she runs a little bit. She might eventually, I think my mom and I can eventually convince her that she's also a runner.
So have your younger sisters said, Mika, like, teach me? Have they ever asked you about the running, or have they never talked to you about the running?
Oh, no, of course not. No. I mean, it's my youngest sister is still in high school. She's only a sophomore in high school. And so, it's so cringe, right? Like to ask anybody. And so there's no attempting. I think she'll get into it eventually and maybe like just ask for advice, but she's not one that really is looking for anyone to give her unsolicited advice in anything.
Most people aren't. But the people listening to the Renegade podcast, they love advice.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my last question. If you had one nugget, one piece of advice to someone who's stepping up to the 200-mile distance, what is that one piece of advice that you could give that person?
I would say that any distance seems intimidating when you are looking at the full picture. And so for especially a distance like 200, you just got to break it up aid station to aid station and don't think, oh my gosh, I'm running 200 miles. It's like, oh, I have a 18-mile section. I can do 18 miles. Oh, I have a 16-mile section. And so just being able to break that up mentally into the different chunks and not get overwhelmed by the full distance at the start line, I think is probably one of the more important things.
And such is life too, breaking up life into smaller chunks. Don't look too far down the road. Mika, that's amazing advice. And Mika, for the listeners, and they want to find more about Mika, your running career, your story, where can they find you?
I'm not super active on social media. The most active is on Strava. But other than that, I do have an Instagram. I'm Sugar Crash Vegan, and I run for Janji. So I'm part of the Janji field team.
Okay. The Janji field team. What's your favorite piece of Janji gear that you got? Non-negotiable. You love it.
I mean, the sun hoodie is amazing. Everyone needs a sun hoodie for sure.
I've seen those. I have a nice Janji shirt. I love it. It's the material, the softness. It feels really amazing. And actually, I have a pair of like Janji joggers that are really cool too.
Yeah, I've been ever since I started with Janji, I've become convinced that pants are the best thing to wear on your legs. I don't wear tights anymore. I love like the Janji pants too. They're pretty great.
Okay.
That's cool. I was going to ask you about that. Is like, are you the tights? Do you like the shorts? Do you need to have lots of pockets?
Yeah, I like shorts with a lot of pockets. But I don't like wearing anything too tight. So I don't like wearing like the leggings or the tight shorts. I'm more like a looser short person. So that's why I like the pants too. And like some of the Mercury joggers are amazing. And some of the Atlas pants are really nice by Janji. So they have a lot of good stuff.
That is. And I don't have to put this in the episode, but are you working on a shoe contract? Like Mika, you're like the 200-mile queen here. Like there's got to be a shoe company coming to you.
I don't know. I am not much of a like all the brands are all about, right? It's like about social media and stuff. And I don't like social media. In fact, I'm looking to delete my Instagram at some point. So
we would too. We would too if we could.
yeah, I mean, it's nice to have for like messaging and stuff. But other than that, like I'm not into social media. I don't like posting for the world. Like, I know it's great for some people, but I'm not the kind of person that likes to put all my stuff out there. And so yeah, I don't know about, and I mean, I'm technically sponsored, but I don't feel like a sponsored athlete, and I don't want to be like a big sponsored person with all these obligations and having to shill for all these companies. I kind of liked being unsponsored.
That's right. Yeah, it's kind of being independent. The Renegade podcast, we're an indie podcast. This is funded by ourselves, and we got one friend of the podcast that helps us out a little bit, but we just do it for fun. We like their product, and it's fun because you can like anything and you can test anything. Well, absolutely. Well, next time you're in the Detroit area and there's some big group runs in the Windsor area, I know how many people, maybe 100 to 200 show up on Friday nights at 6:00 for a big group run.
The Dub City
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to check it out if I can get across the border.
We'll let you across, Mika. No worries.
For sure.
And we just can't thank you enough for joining us on this episode of the Renegade. And it sounds like you have a big 2026 planned out, and we're going to be cheering for you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We thank you for listening to the Renegade Podcast. Each episode, we dare to practice the lost art of conversation to better understand this thing we call life and the human connection that we have with running and endurance sport. If you enjoy the Renegade Podcast, could we ask for a favor? Head on over to our YouTube and click subscribe, and like our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your engagement helps keep the Renegade Podcast growing and going. If you have a show idea, a comment, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, renegadepodcast@gmail.com. That's RUNEGADE podcast@gmail.com. We have a great list of guests coming up that we're looking forward to sharing another conversation with you. Head on over to our link tree, check out our sponsors, our friends of the podcast. We have great discount codes that, thanks to them, they're offering you, the Renegade listeners, to save some money on the best running gear, apparel, fuel, and nutrition. We thank you for listening. And remember, in a world of runners, be a renegade.